Okay. Thank you, everyone. I hope you met someone that you haven't met before, had a good conversation. Good. All right. Hopefully these don't blow away. I'm going to start with you, Coach. Do you have any advice on how to help a young person figure out their why? You mentioned their why being so important for their motivation. Do you have any advice on how to help them figure that out?
I think you have to have conversations in regards to what they're passionate about, the things that they would like to do. And one of the things that I always tell kids is to dream big, right? I mean, and while you're trying to figure out that why, the thing to do is just do different things and get exposed to different ideas. And so I think over time it's just about, really figuring out your passion. And I think your passion will lead you to your why.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm side conversation. I'm listening. Some days you gotta have the kid with you. I have another question about that actually that occurred to me. In conversations in my previous job with folks who were going to be training young people on an artist career planning, business planning thing, they mentioned that the folks that they were talking to had a hard time dreaming. Like my question that occurred to me was, how did your students receive that initially when you're in that invitation to dream? That if it was was it hard for them? Was it easy for them? Did they already have big dreams? Did they struggle with that?
I think everybody, not just kids, but adults as well, sometimes struggle with their dreams. One of the things is that I didn't get to talk about is my grandmother gave me a book when I was 14 by Napoleon Hill, and what it says was that, one of the reasons why teaching kids to set goals was so important for me is because 95%, I don't know what I'm doing here.
A little wiggly.
But 95% of people just live life, right? And so whatever happens, happens. And so one of the things that, as we talked about exposure and helping them to dreams, I mean, every trip, much like debate, that we took our kids on a college campus. We took them to a museum. We had Nike shoe design staff come in. And so one thing has always been big to me. We would take our kids down to the Minnesota Timberwolves and talk about all the jobs that are in basketball. And so, I mean, I think you have to plant seeds, right? Plant seeds, and then it's on the adults to kind of make sure that we're nourishing those kind of things and helping those kids. And so for me, right away, I mean, one of the things that like when our kids came to us in ninth grade, the first thing that we did is we registered all the ninth graders for the NCAA clearinghouse, which meant you were now on track. At least you were thinking, I'm going to college, right? And then we could figure out the rest over the next 3 years.
Excellent. I think this question is for both of you, and I'll start with Sandy. In both examples of this transformative work, it is clear that relationship building and high-touch programming is critical to the work. Can you share how you have thought about building capacity and abundance for this work that is so needed?
Yeah, I think this is working.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. I think something that I have found, which is possibly pretty unique to the tight-knit debate community, but it's really building relationships with peer coaches so that students know that they're walking into an environment where the adults in the room know each other, have rapport with each other, and so you have this environment of relationship building from the moment new debate students walk in, right? They're embraced into a community of people who have similar interests and who are curious, and that's something I've been really developing this year is how to model that rapport with people and just extend that welcoming energy to any student who comes by. I think debaters really joke about how we like going in circles and really opening up the circle to any new student and just inviting them in and asking them really what interests them and letting them letting them talk a lot and celebrating that they're talking a lot. Those are things that I think about.
So, question again?
Yeah. It was, can you share how you have thought about building capacity and abundance for this work that is so needed?
So for me, very interesting question. So one of the reasons that I retired a couple years ago was very intentional. I'm developing a program called Coach Like a Champion Academy with the intent of, right now, I'm mentoring 10 young coaches who are 1 or 2 years in. And so I'm sharing what I consider the secret sauce, right, and the recipe with them, hoping to, for me, and I always said this, is that, one of the reasons I retired is I was blessed. 100% of my kids, I don't know if it's me, but one of the things that, the championships and all of those kind of things are great. But what I'm most proud of is in 24 years that I had coached, 100% of my kids went to a 2-year, 4-year school, right? And so my goal now, that if I can get 10 other coaches to replicate what I'm doing, think about the impact that could have on the city. And so that's where we're at right now. We're developing a master class and a program, Coach Like a Champion Academy.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm going to go to Sandy. This question is from a young person in the audience who wanted to know more about the Minnesota Urban Debate League, what that is.
Oh, what a perfect question. The Minnesota Urban Debate League is a program that's run out of Augsburg University. We administer the different teams in the Twin Cities, so Minneapolis Public Schools, St. Paul Public Schools, and then just a handful of other schools as well. And it's really a wonderful thing. We do our regular high school competitive debate season in the fall. We do Spanish debate, which is my passion project. Totally check out and support Spanish debaters. We have East African debate, we have financial literacy debate, and we're really hoping to bridge these equity gaps that come in debate, which is usually a very elitist activity, to really bridge this gap so that students in the inner city and in schools in the Twin Cities can have an opportunity to participate without these financial barriers in the way.
Thank you. Speaking of gaps, question came in that says, many schools right now, mine included, are facing significant budget challenges. We are wrestling with cuts in PE, music, art, and media. For a moment, I thought it said cats. I apologize. Glad I didn't read cats. What would you say to these school boards as they wrestle with these choices? I think this question is for both of you.
I think I am emerging into education in the beginning of this journey, just kind of constantly facing this reality of scarcity, that there are budget cuts every year. There's always something that's going to be cut. There's always something that's lacking. And I think that that's really disheartening and can really impact the sustainability of the teaching career. So it's really sad, and especially young people should advocate on behalf of what matters to them. When I was the debater, advocated to my school board in favor of keeping our ethnic studies programs. That was all with the skills I learned in debate and the confidence that I developed in debate that I then used to speak out on something that really mattered to me. But I also think that debate can be a space where you can cultivate that abundance with your students. For just an hour and a half at practice, you can say, we have all this knowledge, all these resources, and all this support available to you. And I think that that's kind of the benefit and the magic of coaches, is that they're able to really stretch nothing into something really beautiful, whether that be in basketball or debate.
So for me, I'm of the belief that nobody ever told me life was fair. I've always had to deal with less than. That's why I wanted to coach at an inner city school. And so, but I think there's a lot of good people out there. You just got to find the rooms and go to people that can tell your story. You know what I'm saying? And whether it's $1, $5, $10, you know what I'm saying, that can help a kid. you to me, you play the hand that you're dealt. And I think one of the things that's important for me, and I never wanted to not having enough to be an excuse for my kids, right? No matter, regardless, we don't have the facilities, we don't have all the other equipment, but that will not stop us from achieving our goals of being champions. And so that was our focus. I just didn't have time to feel sorry for myself or our situation. You know, we had friends when, my wife got on the phone one night. We needed warm-up suits. We're going to the state tournament. It's got to be me. Okay. But she called 10 of her friends. We raised $1,400, went out and got warm-up suits. We didn't have the luxury of a lot of the suburban schools, they buy everything that they need at the beginning of the season. You know what I'm saying? We might not have it this week. Before the end of the season, we'll have it. That's the way I approach it.
Thank you both. Quick question for Coach McKenzie, also about the team. What was your message to the players in your teams the day after you lost a game? No, it's not just you. Especially after a section or state tournament game. Thank you.
Well, I'm not a good loser. And it hurts. But the thing that I always told my kids, the question is always, and it never changed when we lost a big game, what did we learn from it? What did we learn from it? And it would go back to, like I was saying, qualifying for that 6-minute mile, right? Could we have played a little harder from this time to this time, right? And so we're not going to blame it on anybody. And for all the kids that are coming back, the weight room will be open on Monday, and you can get in the gym on Monday afternoon.
Thank you. I think this question is for both of you, so I'll start with Sandy. How do you navigate situations with colleagues where they are interacting with students in ways that conflict with your core values?
I mean, every situation is different, asterisks. Sometimes there's an intervention required that you are not responsible for. But I think I come back, when I am confronted with situations like this, I really come back to that relationship piece, right? That accountability within your colleagues, in our community at least, is really hard to achieve if you don't have a relationship with that person. And there can be very punitive ways about going about things like that, but we're a very small community and we're all very invested in the same thing, which is debating. And so I think back to relationships, the relationships that you built with students so that they have the trust to come to you if things are going weird, and the relationships that support you when you are experiencing these types of crises or problems, that support your mental well-being, and then the relationships that you have with the people involved. And that's a lot easier said than done. I think I'm looking at a lot of debate coach colleagues knowing that this is a struggle that we have. But it's really, I think the way I approach it is investing relationships as the first priority and seeing what happens.
Well, I have certain things, as I already talked about, that are non-negotiable. I think everything starts with the leader. And if there's situations that I think are out of hand or not workable, it's a non-negotiable and it's not personal, but I'll see you later.
Simple as that.
Agreed.
Yeah. Question for Coach McKenzie. How long were the seasons, and how did you make time for the non-basketball education pieces?
So the season is 18 weeks. And so what I did every September, I would sit down, and I always call it developing a puzzle. And so I map out, put all the game days on a calendar. And the days that we did not have practice, like I said, kids get out of school at 3:15. We didn't practice till 6 o'clock. So the time in between allowed us to have our mandatory study hall, our life skills, and our weight training. So time management.
Excellent. For both of you, one of the first challenges, free voice or self-belief, is to be addressed at home. How do you help your kids coach at home first? Yeah, please. So I'll restate the question was the free voice referring to Sandy's kids in the debate world. How do they develop that self-belief for Coach McKenzie? Oh my gosh, Coach McKenzie's kids, and how do they develop that outside of the extracurricular environment? How do they start? Am I restating that? Okay.
Well, I coach kids that had some really tough situations, and many times, there was no adult or anybody to coach through that. And so the way I dealt with that is making sure that all of our young men had other mentors or coaches or positive people in their lives, right? And then ultimately, the message for me is, regardless of what's going on in your household, right? And that's when I talk about the creed. You are ultimately responsible for your own success. Your parents can't live for you. You know what I'm saying? No matter how much I love you, you got to learn to, work through this, navigate things. And so we just tried to put them around positive people that, and that's one of the things you're going about talking about staff and people around you. One of the things that my staff understood, we were on call 24/7. If you get that call 2 o'clock in the morning, somebody got to answer. And if you can't do it, you call the next coach, the assistant coach. But we were there because many of our kids didn't have those kind of situations where somebody would encourage them at home. And for those, I always say, you can become the first one in your family to break the chains, right? So we're going to give you the tools to be that real model for your siblings in the house, right? But sometimes you have to work it out on your own.
Sandy, did you want to add?
I think my answer is really similar. I was trying to reflect on, I've never raised a child, so I was trying to reflect on what was beneficial to me as a student coming into my debate interests. And I think it really ties back to understanding that there's a community of loving adults, like Coach McKenzie has just described, and that I think back to the second piece of taking them seriously. Teenagers are such a forgotten about group of humans whose opinions are deeply sensitive to the state of the world. They are so knowledgeable and so creative and so just like justice oriented in a lot of ways. And so really like giving them the space, whether that be at home or in the practice space or in the classroom, really like allowing them to understand those things as traits that should be taken seriously and not just silly ideas or wishful thinking or just young people who don't know about the world yet. Debaters really want to learn about the world and do it and engage in it all of the time, but it's giving them the opportunities and the space and the safety and the encouragement and the kind of tenderness in order to achieve that.
Can I just add something to that too? I think that's when I was talking about really getting to know your kids and knowing your kids, right? And a lot of times, what I've discovered over the years is that we have to sometime be their biggest cheerleader until they learn to cheer for themselves. That's what a lot of kids need. And so sometimes they don't go home to, I coach kids. I've coached kids on my team that I've never met their parents. So different kids need different things, and those kids that are more needy, I want to say this. One of the things that I did, and I learned this from Coach Greg Popovich, every single day at the beginning of practice, I had some really good assistant coaches, but I would go around and talk to every single kid for 30 to 45 seconds. How was your day? What's going on with you and your girlfriend? Did you like lunch? But just something to have a non-basketball conversation with them as young men.
Excellent. Thank you. I want to ask so many follow-up questions, but I know we're getting close to the time. Yeah. Oh, maybe we do have time. Okay, so I have one. It's kind of self-related because I have myself to reflect on. But I'm wondering if there are kids who you mentioned this, Coach, but about how you got to cheerlead for the kids until they can cheerlead for themselves. I wonder if there are kids that you can think of that have had resistance, I guess, to the idea of self-motivation. Because I ran track and I was terrible at it. And it took me for a very long time to figure out how to push through that initial resistance to discomfort or I don't know, but you know what I'm getting at, where both of you are nodding your head, so I'm guessing you do. So I don't know, are there kids that you can talk about in your programs that have had that similar experience and have been able to push through, and what that was like for them?
Yes. There are so many instances where you bring a student to a tournament and it's so scary and they're like, I don't want to debate. And you're like, we came all of this way, please. And I admittedly am more of the lenient coaches of our three, which is useful that the other two are can balance me out, right? They can be like, no, we got to push our students. We got to encourage them. We got to have them do it. Like they came here for a reason. They set a goal. Let's have them follow through on that goal. And I think that there's a really helpful balance in that. And what I provide is saying, look, this is an after-school activity. This is a club if you wanted to. You can come here every so often and do nothing. But you like winning, and winning feels good, and you know that you can do it because you know that you're smart and losing feels bad. And so they come to every practice and they trudge in, and it's part of their every week routine, and then eventually you hook them. And it's watching that hook, that persistence of saying, keep coming back, and I have another thing for you that I think you might be interested in. I have another article that I found that you mentioned you might want to research more. I found this, and I thought of you, and I designed this activity, and I thought of you, and they keep coming back, and it's really when you hook them. So I think it doesn't work for everybody. There are definitely students who come to the debate team, and they're like, I am not about this, and that is okay. But really, I think it's the balance of meeting them where they're at, but also pushing them to do better, because you know that they can do better, and they do if they put their mind to it.
So one of the things that I always talk to my young men about is, one, success is not easy. If it was, everybody would be a multimillionaire and doing all the things that they want to do. So success requires sacrifice. And in a case like having an athlete like you, I would have probably, what did you run, 100, 200?
Sometimes the 200. I preferred the 400 or the 800.
So see, when I was in school, we ran the 440. So now there's meters and all that. But let's say, what was your best time?
Oh, I don't remember. Do you know how long
but let's say,
that was?
So let me just use this example. I don't know time, but I'm going to say, so let's say you ran a time of 24 flat or whatever, right? And so I would say, I would push you, okay, tomorrow we're going to try to get that to 25, right? And every day we're going to set those personal goals. And when you hit that goal, one of the things that I told we did all the time is when you hit a goal, we're going to celebrate. We're going to celebrate. So you hit that time today, we're going to go to Burger King, we're going to go to McDonald's, we're going to do something because I wanted kids to be celebrated when they hit their goal. So I think it's constantly, again, and I always say, one of the things in terms of going back to knowing your kids and know why. Like some kids, they like need you to be really on them, right? And there are other kids, they need you to put your arm around them every day and tell them how much you love them and how important them is. I think a good coach has to know that. You have to know your kids, right? And so for me, that was my approach, right? Every kid is different, and I need to give them what they need.
Oh, I think
please.
Just adding on, basically, something I found really interesting about the South debate team was we shifted away from success being, winning debate rounds. Winning debate rounds is this very weird task because it is very subjective in a lot of ways, but it does require skill and it does require good effort. But we shifted away from winning these rounds, which can sometimes be so arbitrary and so elusive, into iterating exactly what you said. Next time, we're going to do a little bit better. Next time, you're going to say this, and it's going to feel great that you remember to say it. This time, we're going to make sure that you really focus on developing this skill. And I think that also helps students understand motivation in a way that suits their needs and wants better in the moment, rather than saying success is winning and I'm expecting you to win. Obviously, I want to push my kids to win, but allowing that journey of success to look different for each student and getting to know your student and their why is definitely right.
And just piggybacking on that again. So if I tell you every day, going back to what I just said, becoming a cheerleader, right, before you believe in it. If I tell you every day that you can do it, you're going to get it today, and you do it, then all of a sudden now you start to believe I can do it.
Yeah, it's been. I hear in both of you the specificity of the approach for each kid. I think that makes a huge difference. It's like, here's the goal for today. Here's what we're going to do next time that's going to be better. That's really important, and I want you to both come coach me in my everyday life. Okay, I think this is our last question. I didn't see anything else pop into the baskets. No? Anybody? Okay, last question. For Coach McKenzie, how do you maintain your message, culture, and structure as a coach in an era of parents of... I don't know if I can read. Is it AAU or AAV? AAU coaches with conflicting agendas.
Well, again, I think it's about building relationships, right? In my parent meeting, I was clear. I won't tell you how to raise your kid if you don't tell me how to coach. And I've raised a couple kids, and I think I did pretty good. So, and I just think you got to set boundaries, right? And the thing about it is, parents have, and when it comes to like AAU and all that stuff, I think parents have a right to choose and do whatever they want to. But from November to March, when you're in my gym, I'm the coach. And you can deal with those other folks after that. But we had great relationships, and so we would have trusting adults who knew our program, knew what we wanted to expect. We would just transfer them to that group over the summer, and they continued to do everything that we were doing.
Excellent.
Created consistency.
Any last questions percolating in anybody's mind? Okay. Well, I want to thank both Coach McKenzie and Sandy for a wonderful, robust Q&A. I always love, like it says in the script, I love this part of the program because I get to really hear the passion and the insight that you all have to share. So thank you very much. Big round of applause for these two.